What's going on, Bears fans? Yeah. What an awesome crowd we have out here today. It looks like a Bears home game outside and inside Salt, where we are at here in Glendale, right outside the stadium, footsteps from the stadium. This has been an awesome weekend, and we are about 2 hours away from kickoff inside State Farm Stadium. Adam Hoge, Corey Wootton, Mark Carman, Greg Braggs Jr. with you amongst a sea of Bears fans.
Bears fans travel so well. That's why they're the best fans out there. Give it up for the Bears fans. This weekend has been awesome. Great start to it. Friday, yesterday, the golf event, and
good job on your round, by the way.
Yeah. Good round, right, Braggs?
You guys played great, and I'm very proud of you. And I hope the Bears give the same effort that you two displayed on the links yesterday.
That would be a win. That would be a win.
Yeah.
I somehow just got roped into a 2-on-2 basketball game outside. I'm still sweating. I need more water. Like, I retired from basketball in January, and somehow I was out there playing with like a 13-year-old.
Gotta watch yourself at this age.
I have video of it, Woot, and yes, the guy that Hoge was guarding put the ball through Hoge's legs, and
he did.
It was
sauced him up real quick.
It wasn't great, but you
but here's the thing: you leave out the context to that was like
a real player.
That was about what we were going to talk about with Jay Glazer and Courtney Cronin's reports this morning. What you just did was the Jay Glazer end of it. What you failed to report was that the pass did not get completed. Yes, it went through my legs, but the defense was done. The possession was won. And also, those two guys were like actual hoopers, like for real.
Yeah. So I'm trying to finish the analogy. Are you saying that you're Courtney Cronin and that I'm Jay Glazer? Is that what just happened?
Well, they're both very talented. They both do a good job. So I don't think we can go wrong either way. But let's get into this because this was not exactly – well, we knew this was going to be the story this morning, but not necessarily to the level that it has been. It feels like all Bears fans have probably seen this at this point, but if for some reason you missed it, Jay Glazer reported this morning on the Fox pregame show that on Wednesday – Tyrique Stevenson was informed that before practice that he would not be starting the game today against the Cardinals, and he removed himself from practice, and that did not go over well in the locker room. Courtney Cronin, a little while later, she does a great job covering the team for ESPN.
Yes.
Had some extra context. I'm going to read that to you here just so everybody's aware. She said Bears coaches and execs arrived to the decision to not start Stevenson on Tuesday and relayed that to the cornerback before Wednesday's practice, which was a walkthrough. I'm told that Stevenson did leave practice after the stretching period to gather himself after learning of his demotion from the starting lineup, but returned to practice after a couple minutes inside the locker room and came back out for the team periods during that walkthrough. While Stevenson's teammates have expressed frustrations over how things went down in Washington, there wasn't anything confrontational due to the cornerback leaving walkthrough before returning. The plan today, Stevenson will rotate in similar to how Terrell Smith was rotated last week in Washington. Terrell Smith played 23 snaps. So it sounds like basically their roles will be switching today.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Woot.
No, I mean, I kind of thought he would not start in this game just to teach him a lesson for what exactly went on. It seems like that was all blown out of proportion a little bit. He went back to the locker room, and sometimes that happens, right? Emotions get the best of players. Probably needed to gather himself, came back out. But I think he's definitely disappointed himself, and hopefully it's a learning lesson for him. I think he's a talented young corner, and you just can't make plays like that. So hopefully this will light a fire under his you-know-what and get him going. And hopefully this will be, you look back on it, it's a great learning lesson for him.
I don't know if I can draw any parallels here, but did you ever receive news at practice that you weren't going to play or something of the ilk that you weren't real proud of or didn't like, and you left the field and went to the locker room?
No, that's never happened to me.
Okay, I didn't think that would happen to you, Woot. And Braggs, have you ever been given news and left the field?
The golf course?
The golf course? You might be one that would do that.
Have I ever argued with my superiors? I don't know, man.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
Don't ask my bricklaying bosses.
Okay, so but that's
because yes, I did.
Listen, the fact of the matter is, here's my opinion. Tyrique Stevenson had a horrible moment, embarrassed himself, embarrassed the team. He deserves to apologize like he did, and he deserved. And as far as not starting, I think that's the right move. Okay, so I like that there is some level of consequence here. Now, if what's being put out by Courtney is right, that he just went in and then came back and moved through the practice and that was it, well, then I don't think it's a huge deal. However, if it is more than that he is actually pouting about it and he doesn't have a great attitude, that's a huge problem. And he is in the wrong. I don't care how well he's played. You had a terrible moment. That's the head coach. That's the discipline. Whether you like it or not does not matter. You've got to move forward, accept it, and be the best you can be when you get your next opportunity. That's it. That's not a good look if he's carrying this with him forward. He should be, I will be great when I get my next opportunity, period.
Yeah, I mean, in an ideal world, that is how it's handled. In the old school way of coaching, that's how every coach would handle it. We're in a new era, though, and this is professional football where the coaches and the players, yes, the coach is your superior. These guys all make big money, right? Sometimes the players make a lot more money than the coach, right? Sometimes the player has a longer standing with the team than the coach. And so if you're going to if you're going to try to set this standard, what I would be pissed off if I was Tyrique, how convenient. You want to wait for the week where I, as a coach, look like a complete moron and go out there and now I'm going to hold a standard to Tyrique Stevenson and the rest of the team. Like, to me, it's convenient timing because Tyrique Stevenson poked Nico Collins in the eye week 2. Where was the standard then? There was no standard. But then it's the week that the coach on the national spotlight could not have looked dumber and then walks out the next day and says the 13 yards didn't matter and I'd run these plays again. So you have to have a standard for yourself. And that's where I had this problem last year with Matt Eberflus. He consistently walks to the podium and only talks about how the players need to execute better. And it takes him so long to get to the point of it starts with me. You are the head coach. You set the standard. You have to lead by example. So yes, Tyrique Stevenson made a huge mistake, and this punishment is probably right in line, but Matt Eberflus needs to start, following his same rules.
So there's a lot of layers to this whole thing. My reaction to what's come out this morning is that this obviously is not squashed. No. Jay Glazer may not have had the whole story. That would be a rare moment for Jay Glazer, who usually has a lot of stories and really well-sourced things. But there's something to that story. He doesn't put that out about, players, something not going over well in the locker room. Now, it might not have been to the level, of the full story that Courtney came through and did a great job reporting. But the point is, as much as we were talking about this all week, this was obviously something that lingered in that building all week.
Yep.
And I think there's a lot of mixed feelings to what you're saying, Greg, of this would be a lot easier, and not only for Tyrique Stevenson to swallow, but probably his teammates to swallow if there was more accountability from the coaching staff.
Exactly.
Which I think we also can say with pretty much certainty right now that there is a vibe in that locker room that they feel like the coaches need to take more accountability for their actions too. And it took way too long to even get to that point. I think it was Wednesday's press conference before Matt Eberflus even hinted at any of that. And so that is a problem. And now I want to be, let me finish. I want to be very clear about something, though. What Tyrique Stevenson did at the end of that game was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen an NFL player do on the field in terms of just a total lack of awareness about what's we've seen stupid moments. We've seen, players get fined or do bad celebrations. We've seen crazy stuff like that. But in terms of just literally not paying attention to the biggest play of the game that's happening and being caught in memes all week because your back is turned to the play, I don't care what's going on with the coaching staff. I don't care if they need to be if you don't punish your player in any way for what that happening, you're never going to get accountability. You have to.
Exactly.
You have to do that.
Exactly.
Yep. And that's the problem, because across the board, for the most part, this defense is a pretty disciplined defense, right? I think they limit their penalties, and Tyrique Stevenson with the eye poking, and then that he's got to mature a little bit. I think 100%. For sure. I think he's super talented. There's a reason why he wasn't a first round pick.
Yeah,
he was first round talent. I think there were some off the field issues and whisperings about him in the locker room and things like that.
Well, there was a transfer from Georgia to Miami because he he basically didn't accept his role there.
Exactly.
But let me ask you guys this. To me, Yes, what Tyrique Stevenson did was one of the dumbest. I mean, it was one of the most ridiculous things you've ever seen. A guy's back turned. He's talking to the fans while the play is literally going on behind him.
And most importantly, he missed his assignment.
Like, that's something I did playing soccer when I was like 5. You know, like, turn around, the game's going on. But at the same time, I could in a way, I could understand just that immaturity in the moment. There's a heat of the passion. You're excited. It's almost worse to me when Matt Eberflus has time to think about something after a game and says those 13 yards didn't matter. What Tyrique did was boneheaded. What Matt Eberflus has exhibited since those coaching decisions shows me a stubbornness and an ego and stupidity that is more worrisome going forward than Tyrique turning around for one play.
Yeah, but you're going down a weird road of 2 wrongs don't make right. Those are separate things.
100%.
Those are separate things.
Well, it's not when he's the guy that's the one trying to hold the standard for somebody else.
But it can't be I messed up so I can't discipline you. That's not how it works. He's the head coach. He doesn't have to be perfect. He's the player. There is a hierarchy. Respect authority. You don't have to like it, but you have to respect it. Yeah. And look, earlier this week, Gordy had another tweet out there. Bears players asked for the same accountability from the Bears coaching staff that is expected of them in games following a disastrous loss in Washington that they aim to move past with a win in Arizona. It's cool that they're asking for Flus to out himself when he makes mistakes. I think he should. You think he should. Everyone thinks he should. It's part of being a leader. You do point the thumb when you blow it, but it's also, that's going to have the players are going to lose respect for him, which is why moving forward to today, it's such a huge day for the Bears. And if things go awry today, if they lose in some blowout fashion, I don't think that's going to happen. But if it does happen, it'll be real interesting. Crowd's going nuts because Lance Briggs is walking in right now.
And AB shouted about.
Yeah,
he did that Greg Braggs on the airplane move.
Yeah, Alex Brown just yelled to this entire bar, "Oh my God, it's Lance Briggs!"
Yeah.
As Lance Briggs tried to sneak in
Carm,
here.
you missed this when we got on the airplane to come here. We haven't done a show since we got here. This is good. Greg got on. Well, Greg, apparently not realizing he was flying Southwest Airlines, got out of line right before boarding to go pee.
Great move.
Couldn't do that on the plane.
Last row middle for you.
No, we saved him a spot, which I don't know you're supposed to do. But
shouldn't have done that.
He got on the plane and announced to the whole plane, "Oh my God, it's Adam Hoge."
That's awesome. That's awesome. But can we just go back? Do you agree with what I was?
Well, yeah, it's a huge game because the other thing that we haven't talked about yet, because we haven't done a show since Thursday, is Caleb Williams' dad essentially subtweeting the coaching staff, and then Shane Reardon said that he wasn't going there with it. But it's, to me, as to your point about how big of a game this is, it is as big a game as I can remember in a long time.
But I'm just putting out the hypothetical. I know it's hypothetical. You don't love these, but if the Bears have a terrible day today, what do you think that looks like coming out of it? I'm not predicting that. I'm just asking the question. If they had a terrible day today, what does it look like going forward with everything that's happened?
Woot, I want to ask you. Yeah. You lived this out before, like when things started spiraling, and then it was like it kind of started with some drama. It started with similar questions. Yeah. Is the coaching staff keeping the players accountable? Yeah. What's really going on here? Yeah. And then it really did spiral. It spiraled quickly. So. I mean, what similarities or not similarities do you see in this situation? And if and quite frankly, how much would a win just go to like kind of squash a lot of this stuff?
Right.
A win would make everybody forget about everything real quickly. But it reminds me a lot of Mark Trestman in 2013, because the year before, right, we had a top 5 defense, basically the same staff defensively, with the exception of Urlacher wasn't there. But we went from top 5 to dead last in every category. And it's because stuff crept in with that coaching staff. The 2013 game against Green Bay, we had a loose ball that nobody picked up, and that would have sealed the game. That Aaron Rodgers to Randall Cobb play would have never happened. But little things like that crept in because the coaching staff didn't hold us accountable like they did in years past. And I think that's what Eberflus. I think he's trying to be like that cool parent that like, oh, I'm this player's coach and everybody loves me. But when you need to discipline and hold your players accountable, you have to crack down the whip. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I think that's the problem with Matt Eberflus. He doesn't want to call it out or even call himself out, but you have to do that in situations. And I think that's why stuff with Tyrique Stevenson has crept in. this isn't something that just happened overnight. There's been lack of discipline plays from him, even dating back to last year. You thought he would grow this year, and him benching him, I feel like it was only because there was so much pressure on him. I feel like that really wasn't his first reaction. I'm going to bench him, but I think there was so much pressure on Eberflus that he had to do it.
We got our friend Adam Rank from the NFL Network sitting with us on the set. We just upgraded that seat over there.
How dare you?
Yeah.
Do not talk about my co-host like that on the same podcast with Adam Rank. Listen, it's an honor and a privilege to be out here and finally to see Corey Wootton in person.
Yeah.
Now I can finally say that Corey's my friend. Because I'm like, I know him through like the computer screen, but now
It's official.
we've pressed the flesh and now it's official.
Exactly. We gave a nice dap and a hug,
Yeah.
so it's official, man.
And then 90 people wanted to take photos with him, and I'm like, I'll never see you again.
Adam, what is your reaction to what's been playing out this morning?
It's funny because I've gone through a full gamut. Because when Carman this is how easily I can get like swayed. Like Carman, I'm like, yeah, this guy should never do this or whatever. And then Greg, of course, being like, hey, I was the young defensive person who would respond accordingly. And I was just thinking about this the other day. We had to reshoot something that we were doing on this, and it was Claiborne's court. And I gave such a great take, and we had to reshoot it because something got messed up. I think I might have mentioned that Jamison Williams was suspended before the NFL announced it. I wanted to walk off on the set. And I'm like, so I get that impulse. But I think that, like Corey's saying, this is something that's not happened overnight. And I was sort of defending it last week on that. Like, the loss against the Commanders was different than the previous 3 losses from last season that we always talk about, the 90 percentile games that we lost. I'm like, that was a fluke. But these kind of flukes happen to teams that aren't prepared for those kind of situations. And you can't ignore it anymore. And at some point, and I know the coach doesn't always like to hold himself accountable, but he's going to have to.
Well, there's going to be – the way I look at this game today is there's a lot of pressure. There's way more pressure this week than there was last week because how everything played out. I mean, you don't have to go – we've been hanging out with Bears fans the last few days here, and, like, it's just like they blurted out. They're like, out of nowhere, they're just like, oh, if only that Hail Mary hadn't happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's like still in everybody's minds, and I guarantee you, even if the players tried as hard as they could to flush it, they're still – in the back of their minds before this game, they'd be like, we really need to win this game.
Exactly.
And definitely the coaching staff is feeling that way. They got to be sitting there going, we have to win this game today.
You know what it's like? It's like if you're on a 150-yard par 3 and you hit one off the hosel and end up taking a triple. It's hard. Why is this too close to home?
No, I still beat Bragg, so it's fine.
Yeah. I did see that par 3 tee shot yesterday.
Whoa.
But that's what it's like until you go out there and can finally hit one, flush on the face again.
Exactly.
It hangs over.
It does. And I think the biggest thing they have to do this week is come out and start fast.
Yeah.
Right? Set the tempo of this game. And a big thing offensively is the identity. What is the identity of your team? Because I think it's been a mixed bag. We went through that 3-game winning stretch where, the run game was focal point. And then all of a sudden last week we got away from it the first 3 quarters.
Yeah.
Bounced back in the fourth quarter. Caleb orchestrated that drive that was great. They were rolling on all cylinders in that fourth quarter. But they need to have the identity of the team. And I think the defense needs to have a strong performance. I think Tyrique Stevenson, when he's in there, the main thing I worry about is that he gets too over-aggressive trying to make a play, to be like, oh, listen, you can't bench me. You shouldn't bench me. Just follow your technique, stick to that, and I think everything will be well. But I just worry that he might be pressing a little bit too much to say, hey, listen, I shouldn't be on the bench.
But you know what's also cool about how talented he is?
Yeah.
It wouldn't completely shock me if 4 or 5 hours from now we're sitting right here at Salt doing a post-game show talking about how he might be Defensive Player of the Week again.
Yeah.
Because he was Defensive Player of the Week earlier this season.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be the most unbelievable thing that could happen today. If Tyrique can get himself a pick 6 and it's like high stepping down the sidelines and like pointing at Flus.
That's what you want.
When he hands Flus the ball.
There you go.
Like that. But we need that kind of moment. That's one of the things that, and we see it all the time around the NFL.
Yeah.
Like, hey, remember this person did this a week ago, and now it's a redemption story.
Yeah.
I want Chris Rose and MJD to be talking about that tonight on NFL Network.
And it's just there's still such a woe is me Bears attitude though that it just feels like the opposite always will happen.
Well, and to what you're talking about, Adam, we walked around this week and a lot of people came up to us and were like, yeah, I didn't listen to you last week because I literally couldn't take it, and we clicked on finally on Thursday, and I was like, you know what? We were talking about the fact that we did see a trifle dip in the old numbers this week, and I'm like, and then we thought that it was a hangover effect because we're so entertaining. There's no reason why anybody would write. But so anyway, that's a real thing for Bears fans.
Oh, yeah.
People were, I mean, this was a major kick to the gut. So
No, it is one of those things you never want to watch. NFL Network, ESPN, CHGO, whenever that stuff is happening to your team, you never want to relive it. Like I personally, if my baseball team loses, I don't watch MLB Network the next day. So I've never seen MLB Network outside of 60 days a year. But it is one of those things that I think like a lot of people felt that way. Like it was a literal punch to the gut, not figurative, literal punch to the gut.
So this is a good transition, Adam. We do on our pregame every single week. What matters most today? And a lot of times it's Caleb. A lot, it's this or that. I mean, for me, I got to go Flus. Flus has to, whatever the result is today. Like there cannot be another how Flus screwed up this game type of conversation going into tomorrow's. Today's post-game press conference and tomorrow's Monday press conference.
No, I agree. I think he needs to take accountability for whatever happens to that game, good, bad, or indifferent. But we need better situational football from him, understanding what to do in certain situations, especially that last drive, right? The Hail Mary was the Hail Mary, but that play should have never happened.
Yeah.
Right? If they protect the sideline, if he would have just called a timeout, made sure everybody was on the same page.
Well, he knew something was afoot.
Yeah.
And Caleb's pulling him back, and it's like, hey,
At that point.
you have 3 timeouts, right?
Yeah,
Like you
I
should
just
know
didn't.
this. You can call a timeout. It's not a running clock.
Exactly.
It's not like playing soccer or something where you have you have no chance for that. Like football will allow you to do that.
Exactly.
Well,
being able to challenge that play to hit the ground as well, like that's situational
But he's
football.
scared off that now.
I know.
He'll never do that again.
But it's just an underlining too of look, there's a lot that goes with being a head coach. You can be on your P's and Q's and do right and play right and show up and move forward and have your feet where your feet are. It's a whole nother thing, man, when the actual game is going on to know exactly what to do. And it just makes you think that the guy is out over his skis as a head coach, at least at times. For me, what matters most, by the way, the Bears cannot do the same thing they've been doing in the first quarter. You've got to start fast. I think they need some mojo to get past it. If they start slow again, don't score in the first quarter. It just feels like the malaise from last week will be continuing. Get in the end zone early. Let's put last week behind them and get some confidence flowing, get that energy up. I think a good start would go a long way to having a great day and just moving forward, period.
All those things matter. And those are things that we continually look for in each game this season. This is the first time that I will say they have to win.
Yeah.
Like I've been like, okay, like I want to win, obviously, but it's not necessarily the most important thing. This is the one time where it is the most important thing to win. And honestly, this is going to be a pretty good indication of how this team feels about their coach. Because if a lot of these things that we've talked about do not happen, we don't start off hot. We don't do this. We're not accountable. We're not making good in-game decisions. At some point, you just have to look at the overall situation and say, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
What is the ultimate, like, where is this organization going? What is the long-term future of this?
Yeah.
Because you're in year 3 of your coaching stint. These kind of things should start to be eliminated. We should have eliminated these by now.
Exactly. And I think when I'm looking at this game, the success of this game is based on the running game on either side of the ball. You look at for what we can do well with Swift, Roschon Johnson, even Caleb, his mobility. And then on the other side of the football, James Carman. I think it comes down to whatever team runs the football better is going to win this game. So I look at the defensive side of the ball. Another mobile quarterback, Kyler Murray, is actually having a really efficient season. He's connecting with the tight end very well. So I think for the Bears defense, they have to keep contained on them. And on some of those RPOs, make sure you stay home and keep them contained.
Reminder, the Arizona Cardinals are second from the bottom in the NFL in stopping the run. They're last in the NFL, tied with the Giants for stopping the pass. The Bears offense, last week they didn't take advantage of a Commanders defense. When you watch the Cardinals, they've got some speed out there, but they don't get to the quarterback.
Well,
Caleb and the running game should both do well today.
And I want to touch on that because let's get to some of the optimism that you can have going into this game. Because, first of all, I think it's a good thing that the drama with Tyrique Stevenson is happening on defense. I think it'd be a different story on offense where they're struggling. This defense is playing well. They can go out there without him today, or even with a couple guys out there that like are in his corner. They don't feel great about how this week went, and they probably are still going to be able to control the game and give the offense a chance because of how good that side of the ball is. Now, on the flip side, if all of a sudden we see the defense have like its worst game of the season, given everything that's been going on this week, that would actually be very concerning because that would make me worry a little bit about Flus losing his own defense.
Yeah.
So that's a storyline to watch too. But I think it's overwhelmingly more likely that the defense continues to play well, that the offense has a chance. I'd also like to point out, like I always think about 2014, which none of us ever want to think about ever, but what happened in New England when things were really starting to go crazy and Lamar Houston tears his ACL celebrating a sack and a blowout.
That was amazing.
They went into a bye week, and there's all this noise because Phil Emery's attacking Brian Urlacher over some comments he made in the media. Like, there's all this drama going in, and the worst thing ever was that you had to go to Lambeau the next game. And Aaron Rodgers threw 6 touchdowns in the first half, and nobody was within 15 feet of Mark Trestman on the sideline.
Yeah.
Like, the good news is you're not playing the Packers this week.
Yeah.
You're playing the Arizona Cardinals, followed by the New England Patriots. Like, so the schedule and a lot of the NFL, Adam, you know, this is not who you're playing, but when you're playing them, and kind of how the schedule gets laid out sometimes in your favor or way against you. And at least right now, they have 2 weeks before they get put in that situation where, oh shit, the Packers are coming to town.
And it's a home game on the road, Bears fans. Let's go. Woo. I mean, come on. It's true story. Look, the schedule's been friendly to the Bears in the early season, and they've done their best. They were taking advantage of it until they weren't.
Yep.
Even last week, and this is the one thing that I've continued to stick with. What gives me optimism and give me hope? I'm not going to say never. I haven't felt this way in a long time. When DeAndre Swift scored that touchdown last week, and we're down 12-7, I'm like, we're winning. We're winning this game. Like Washington, listen. I know the national media loves Washington, and I'm like, that team's not scoring another time. I was wrong. Should not have scored another point.
You shouldn't have.
You were right.
Should not have.
Yeah.
That team's not scoring. I've seen enough. The Bears are shutting them down. They're getting to the quarterback. This is over. We're gonna even when Doug Kramer fumbled, it actually might have been Caleb's fumble. I'm like, that's fine. 3 and out this team. Like they're gonna get the ball back. I'm not. And this week in this building right now here at Salt in Glendale, Arizona.
Yeah,
that's a
What's
cheap
up, Salt?
pop. Listen, we should be talking about how this team is taking advantage of the small victories. And, you know, even though the schedule has been in our favor, you still want to go out there and win those games. That opportunity is still laid before us. We can go out there, win 2 games. Being 6-3 is far out exceeding the expectations of a lot of people. Maybe not the people in this room, but for a lot of the outside people, 6-3 would be well ahead of where people have us.
I do. It would, and to get it done today, I wonder how strong the Bears' leadership will be player-wise. Like, who is going to step up today or already has and is getting from DJ Moore to Cole Kmet to
Keenan Allen,
Mercedes Lewis, whatever veterans that can actually impact that room. I think that's and even young Caleb. Like how do they move their mindset forward? Because it is a lot, and they're going to need. I think it's got to be player led.
Adam, we know we got to let you get over to the stadium.
Yes,
Enjoy your
Thank
time
you
today.
so much.
Always good to see
Appreciate
you,
it.
Adam.
Appreciate it,
Yep.
man.
You know what's
The man.
great is like even if the players are mad at the coach, you can still win. It reminds me of that episode of The Office where Michael's trying. Like Michael eventually works in getting everybody to unify and galvanize against him. And I don't know if Matt Eberflus is working in that direction, but that also gives me a little optimism. But thank you.
Yeah,
Enjoy Adam
Oh,
Rank.
and by the way, if anybody can give me a ride to the airport after this,
Whoa.
no, I'm just kidding.
I don't think he is. Rank will take a ride.
Someone will help him.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Thanks to Adam Rank for jumping on the show. We got inactives coming out momentarily. But first, our guy, Corey Huss.
Yeah.
Huss.
CJ.
He's in the house right over here. He sent in a $100 super chat. Having a great time in Arizona with the CHGO crew. Let's go, Bears. Appreciate you, man.
We have had such incredible support all week. It's
Yeah.
been absolutely phenomenal. Dr. Bunny's been absolutely dynamic. Gave you a ride home last night, Hoge. You
Yep.
and whoever
Jake.
else. You and Jake. I mean, this is just, and she's got the claw out here today.
Cupcakes too.
Shout out to my guy Mark, who's in here along with his son Tim. It's his birthday today. Happy birthday out there, 85. Let's go. And I've got a huge list of people that we're going to be shouting up, but we're going to do it on a show that's recorded. This is Adam Hoge directed. We're going to
so
give you
people
all
can
the
actually
love.
listen to the podcast and hear their shout-outs real quick, because inactives are about to come out momentarily, and we think Tyrique Stevenson will be active, but it will be nice to have that list come out. We'll know for sure. I do want to I want to share a quick quote from Bears general manager Ryan Poles, who speaks every week to Jeff Joniak on the ESPN 1000 pregame show. This comes via Kevin Fishbane, who did not show up at Salt today. Can we all boo Kevin Fishbane and Adam Johns real quick? Yeah. But Kevin's doing a good job at the stadium listening to Ryan Poles. So now we're going to say, yay, Kevin. Okay. He said, this comes from Ryan Poles. There's an accountability part of things, but there's also an understanding that Tyrique's a part of this family. He is a Chicago Bear. We're not going to let a situation like this break him, and we take a lot of pride in that.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's saying what's politically correct, but I think there is obviously, like, he's a player that he cares about. He drafted. He has the talent. His talent is through the roof. I don't even think he scratched the surface of what he can be. I think he's one of those situations that, coming out, there were some issues about him, and I think they knew that, and they're accepting it. They're embracing him. Hopefully, this lights a fire under him to not make that same mistake, still be the same player he is, but just understand situational football in certain situations.
Well, and Hoge, you brought up the Georgia-Miami thing. Like, he thought he should be on the field at Georgia. He didn't get what he wanted, went to Miami. They asked him about that when they drafted him. And here's a quote from the Bears on it. What was important for you to talk about and learn from Tyrique about what happened at Georgia? And Poles said it gives you a ton of perspective. He came in. We brought him in the draft room. We had a conversation with him, and we talked about that. The one thing I look for is just ownership of maybe some situations early on in terms of talking about maybe it's a guy that was a 5-star, 4-star, or any star that came in with a sense of entitlement in that job that should be handed to him. And maybe they didn't handle a certain situation the way they should have, and they've grown from it. But they own it, and they say, you know what, I messed up, and that's on me. It's the same process right now for him. Like, apparently that's what he did when he went with the Bears, and the Bears took him, traded up to get him. So there's a belief in the character here. He's got to lean back on that character that the Bears made a big bet on, sizable bet on when they drafted him, originally.
It's hard in the league. There's a lot of personalities, and guys are certain ways, and sometimes people make mistakes. I honestly think it's a terrible mistake. It was inexcusable, but he's got to learn from it. Hopefully, we'll have a great game today, and everybody will forget about it, and we don't see something like that happen again.
Well, let's talk a little bit about some of the other areas on this team that mattered. The left tackle situation today as we bring Greg Braggs Jr. back into the show. Larry Borum will – what's up, Bo Brack? In the house for PHNX.
PHNX, the enemy has arrived.
The
enemy.
We need to bring Bo in here at some point. I just want to ask him about
– we love Bo.
Chicago taking over this area.
I don't like Bo.
No, I'm a Bo guy. Even though he completely dissed on me and my amazing record of 7-0 this year. Go ahead, Hogan. My bad.
That was an amazing moment this week. I appreciated that. So Larry Borum at left tackle. That's going to be, how he plays. Now, again, we talk about sort of a soft landing spot. This is one of the worst teams in the league in terms of creating pressure defensively. So, but if you're the Cardinals, I would be attacking Larry Borum, right? He hasn't played a lot. He's been out with an injury. It's his first game back. He's not the starter for a reason. So, how the Bears handle that, bring extra help. Does Mercedes Lewis kind of play left tackle next to him and try to help? Those are all things to watch in this game.
If I'm Shane Waldron this week, I am giving chip help. I'm bringing Mercedes Lewis. I'm sliding protections that way. I'm doing everything I can to help him out, right? Screens and draws early on, because on the other side of the ball, they struggle with pressure, like you said, Arizona. So they're going to try to attack that. But Shane Waldron has been known for his chip help, helping out the offensive lineman. How is he going to do that? And Larry Borum, right? Win-wise, how is he going to hold up? Because it's not like he rotated in defensive line. He hasn't played that much. How is his win going to be in this game?
And for people that forget, he got injured in the last game of the preseason, ankle injury. Now, he's been practicing. They wouldn't put him out there if he couldn't move, but that's not the easiest injury to recover from. So is he actually ready to handle it? And the other thing is he's playing next to Tevin, who's expected to go. and Tevin has not been getting through games. So that whole left side right now is, they got a lot to prove.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, this team has not been able to get off the bus doing anything right. Only 80 total yards. I think Nick Moreano put the stats out earlier in the week. 81 total yards of offense on the first 7 drives of each drive of every game, the first 7 games of the year. Field goal, or punt, 1 field goal. That's all you get. That's not good enough. And this team's got to figure out how to start faster, how to get Caleb settled in faster, because this is dragging into the second half too many times. And so while that's on the players to settle in, it's on your offensive coordinator, your play caller, to understand what your personnel is and who they are in this moment and call the kind of plays that will get them to get to where they always seem to get in the second half.
When Caleb has had success in some of these games, run game going, the quick rhythm and timing throws, the quick ins, the quick outs to get him that confidence. That's what I want to see this week against the Cardinals today. I want to see those rhythm throws, getting the running game going early, because I think everything just works off that. Keeps the defense off balance. Caleb gets very comfortable. And I think, your running back and then tight end, I want to see Cole Kmet get some touches because he's somebody that gets overlooked. You look in that Jaguars game. That was the thing of beauty, getting him going.
Right.
And Caleb is just so much more confident when he gets Cole Kmet going.
And the other thing, too, is if teams are going to send these disguised blitzes at Caleb Williams to continue to challenge him in the offensive line to create chaos, then Shane Waldron has to get creative in the screen game as well. And I know sometimes, screen takes a lot of different things to go right to make it work perfectly, but you've got to be able to anticipate some different kind of looks and have some good screen game, ready for those kind of looks, because that's the kind of stuff that springs DeAndre Swift open.
DeAndre Swift did not get a target last week. That's stunning to me. In training camp, he was getting a ton of dump offs.
And did Cole Kmet get any targets?
Cole Kmet got one.
Yeah, one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that, to your point, Woo, those numbers, they're just not right. Kmet's got 3, 4, 5 at least. You would think
he should get 7-8 targets a game. And I really do believe that.
I agree with you too. I agree with that, and I also think that DeAndre Swift in space, that's what he's good at. You want to put him in that position. It takes pressure off your quarterback. It's not a super challenging throw. Sometimes you got to get creative to get it to him, but he's more than capable of doing that. I would use that weapon.
I think Cole Kmet is one of the most underrated tight ends in the NFL. He doesn't get enough credit for what he does just because he doesn't touch the ball that consistently. You look on the other side, McBride, what has Kyler Murray done? He's targeting him a bunch. Before Harrison got going last week, he's been very inconsistent with him, but McBride is the X factor for that offense. James Conner and him, the run game and the tight end.
He gets the ball a ton. That's a major challenge. Who guards Trey McBride today? Go ahead, Adam.
I got to jump in with some breaking news, guys, and it's not good news. Montez Sweat, still waiting for the full list of inactives. Here I think it is. Montez Sweat, guys, is inactive today.
Wow.
Oof. So the Bears are out without Kyler Gordon. With Khalil Herbert will be inactive again. Montez Sweat, Jaquan Brisker, Braxton Jones. That injury list adding up, and that Montez Sweat, that's kind of surprising. I thought he'd be on a pitch count. It made it sound like on Friday, Matt Eberflus was like, "Yeah, we just tried to rest. We just decided to rest him after we practiced on Thursday." That changes things.
Well, I mean, to me, it feels like he's been banged up all year. And so, yes, they probably could have had him on a pitch count, but at some point you got to try to get him back as close to 100% as you can, because he'll wreck games when he's that type of player, when he's only able to do half of what he's capable of, like you saw last week against Washington. He wasn't in on the final play of the game because he's hurt. So, it's not great for this singular game, but I think for the bigger picture of the rest of the year, it might be for the greater good.
It's tough against a mobile quarterback because I thought after the first quarter he did such a great job containing Jaden Daniels last week, especially on those zone reads, the RPOs. He really did a great job with that. So it's definitely going to be a tough loss because I think he is the key in that locker room.
We're going to do a couple things here. Nick is inside State Farm Stadium right behind us here. And he has the inactives and reaction from inside the press box. We also have our guy Bo Brack, who covers the Cardinals for PHNX, sitting down with us too. So we get kind of like a beat writer sesh going here.
Kind of. What's going on?
Well, we got Nick. You're going to have Nick on your headset too, who's inside the stadium right now. Nick. Let's bring in Nick right here. And Nick, let's start with the inactives and the surprise that Montez Sweat is not going to play today.
Yeah, that's going to be a big loss for the Bears, you guys. Obviously, not only what he can do as a pass rusher, but Kyler Murray has, 344 rushing yards, and just getting out to the edge, you know that Montez Sweat is one of those guys that, even though he's big, he's also fast and can help contain the edge. So that's going to be a big loss. So guys like Jacob Martin, who just started playing last week against the Commanders, are going to ask more from him. DeMarcus Walker playing on the edge. They're going to go deep into that rotation. So that's obviously a big loss for the Bears defense.
Bo, how about the Cardinals inactives? It did seem like a surprising list, and I know Jonathan Gannon kind of laid everything out on Friday.
Yeah, nothing too surprising. The first-round pick in Darius Robinson was never going to go. He was a guy that was added to the active roster just because they wanted to avoid losing him to IR for the remainder of the season. So he didn't even practice. So the only surprise here was Naquan Jones. He's a rotational defensive lineman. I mean, he's replaceable. So Roy Lopez is good to go. Kelvin Beachum, who's filled in nice at the right tackle spot for Jonah Williams, good to go. An offensive line that hasn't surrendered a sack for 3 straight games. So this is a big development, obviously, for the Bears with Sweat, who's transformed your defense at the end of last season coming over from Washington.
Okay, so I'm going to try to spin this in a slight positive way, which is nearly impossible because you're losing your best defensive player in Montez Sweat, and that's horrible. But, Nick, do you see Dominic Robinson on the field right now looking to kill someone? Because it's the first time he's been active all year long, and maybe he'll get an opportunity to show that he belongs on that field.
That's perfect timing because I actually got eyes on him right now. So he's got some orange gloves, and maybe we do see Dominic Robinson out there because the Bears are hurting at that position right now. And obviously, Matty Eberflus loves to use rotations with the defensive line, so this is an opportunity. We know that the Bears do like Dominic Robinson. We haven't obviously seen him on the active roster on game days, but this is the opportunity now to see if he can maybe make an impact, when his time is called. But it's going to be all hands on deck, you guys, with that defensive line.
I mean, turning to Dom Rob was not the ideal plan, but maybe you can. Hey, I'm rooting for him. That's for sure.
So Nick's inside the stadium. You're outside the stadium. Bo, we've been hearing it from the locals since we got here on Friday that this is just different having the Chicago Bears here. I mean, I know the Cardinals kind of always have to deal with the opposing fans invading a little bit, but just walking around here, does it seem like different level?
This is about on par with what we saw with the Detroit Lions fans. So UNFC Norfolk, you guys travel well. And there's a lot of transplants for sure here in the Valley. People love the Sunshine 365. So it was expected. I mean, as soon as the schedule came out in May, we knew that you guys were going to come to the Valley in big numbers. And this isn't anything that they haven't faced.
No. You are not going to minimize. You're not going to Detroit line the Bears fan.
You just
he
doesn't realize what he did there, but that was
painful.
He brought us down to Detroit level. Detroit sucks. Detroit sucks.
I mean, that's tough.
Detroit just started getting fans 2 years ago.
You're right. Everybody moved here.
My job is done here, guys. I've been able to take away your biggest weapon this weekend.
So, Nick, you're inside the stadium. I know it's still early. You're starting to see the fans pile up in there?
Yeah, here and there. It's kind of still early on. But, I have seen Tyrique Stevenson out here, you guys, and going through the DB drills with John Hoge right next to Terrell Smith and actually helping out Rome Odunze on a rep. Rome ran a deep corner route, and Tyrique was the quarterback on the play. Threw it actually pretty nice ball for Tyrique Stevenson. So, obviously not starting for him today, but still working with his teammates, still working with his coach as expected. And we'll see Tyrique at some point in the game with these rotations. So as the fans are filling in, so are some of the players here on the field.
Nick, got one for you. So I think this game comes down to the running game. Whatever team runs the football better. For you, what do you think the X factor in this game is?
Yeah, I think with James Conner, man, he is a physical back. And I think tackling when you don't have guys like Montez Sweat, Kyler Gordon, Jaquan Brisker, guys that are pretty secure tacklers, like you need to, whoever's obviously playing in those positions, need to be ready for him because he really gets that offense going. And if he's able to break some tackles, like that's just going to make it that much more difficult for the Bears defense. So secure tackling, going back to those fundamental things, will definitely help out the Bears defense.
Do you agree with that, Bo, that it'll come down to the run game today?
Yeah, I mean, they haven't been able to set up that true balance. I mean, it's either been pass or run, and mostly run with James Conner. But if they can finally, after kind of discovering how to utilize Marvin Harrison Jr. last week, maybe kind of have that great mix, it could be maybe their first like true offensive game since week 2 against the Rams, who were tremendously undermanned. But like, completely agree with Nick there. As far as James Conner, he's in the league leaders as far as missed tackles. Last time he played in this stadium, forced 11 missed tackles against the opposing defense. I mean, that's been a huge part of his game. He's fresh. He's good to go. And against an undermanned defensive front from the Bears, it could bode well for the Cards.
Yeah, but, it's interesting how different markets look at the same game. I know from our standpoint, we're looking at, Cardinals not being able to generate a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
It's a good week to not have your left tackle. If you're going to not have your left tackle, that kind of works well for the Bears. However, I got to imagine the Cardinals right now are going 3 starters and 3 really good starters are out on this Bears defense.
Right,
pretty good week if you're the Cardinals to have to play this Bears defense.
I mean, I'd say so. The last time, that was week 2. They faced a Rams offensive line that was missing 3 starters, and they got 4 sacks. But 3 of them were from Dennis Gardeck, who's gone for the year. And it was just, as far as their defensive front, especially the outside linebacker spot, all they have is Zaven Collins, who's not a sack artist. He's more versatile as far as in setting the edge, as far as getting into coverage, doing those other things, not getting after the quarterback. Where are they going to be able to do it? Even though they have an opportunity, who's going to step up? It's mostly been from the interior of this defensive line that they've been able to kind of get quarterbacks on the ground. And then also it's going to be key to contain Caleb Williams. Like, they've been horrible as far as any kind of quarterback that can get out and run just the slightest bit has just been able to devastate them, get out and extend plays. So they're still going to have to avoid that even with backups playing.
So you're saying then the prop of, I think Caleb's rushing yards were 40. You might take the
I would seriously look at them, especially on 3rd down. They can't get off the field, and there's been big opportunities for opposing quarterbacks to utilize their legs.
Caleb's been sneaky good on some of those scramble plays. I don't think people give him enough credit for what he can do mobility-wise.
No, and I love that he doesn't want to run.
Yeah.
He kind of only does it when he needs to, but he's still trying to pass the ball. Nick, is there anything else we should know from inside the stadium before we let you go?
I was watching Marvin Harrison Jr. earlier, and obviously he was the guy that popped off last week, and especially plays over the middle of the field. Obviously, that's going to be an area. That's an area of the defense where they've given up plays, explosives all season long, and if that continues with Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. Could be a long day for this Bears defense when you don't have a guy like Montez Sweat applying pressure. So that will be an area that I'm watching out throughout the entirety of this game.
All right, Nick. We'll see you after the game. Enjoy it, and we'll talk to you on the postgame show.
All right, you guys, have fun.
Bo, the most important question I have to ask you before we let you go is: has Johnny Venerable recovered from getting roasted by Jonathan Gannon in the press conference on Friday?
No, I'm proud to say that he hasn't. I don't know if he'll ever come back from that truly, like as a whole man. But what JG was able to do, he was just like a couple comments there saying that he's stuffing his face with candy and making him look like kind of a dope sitting there on his couch eating his kids' Halloween candy. It's done wonders for my personal life, my professional life. Yeah. It's been fantastic. So, and then for Awful announcing to pick it up.
I saw that.
Yeah, it's just been great.
Yeah, for anybody who missed it, there was a little back and forth between the media and Jonathan Gannon on Friday after Halloween, and Jonathan Gannon apparently doesn't celebrate Halloween.
Right. Not since the 3rd grade.
Yeah, wants nothing to do with it.
He's like Derek from Step Brothers. I haven't had a carb since like 2012.
And then he just out of nowhere just singled out Johnny V from PHNX.
Yeah.
And accused him of stuffing his face with candy. And what do you say? That's not a winning.
That's the thing with JG. He's been maintaining it's non-winning behavior.
Oh,
so those empty calories, it's not winning behavior.
That's what we try to tell Greg all the time.
He's not, the guy's not wrong. Give him his props. You would say, would you not, Bo, that the Cardinals have the coaching edge today?
I think so. Yeah, no doubt about it. They've got buy-in from top to bottom in this organization right now, and I don't think the same can be said. I think head coaching and then just consistent quarterback play. I think Kyler Murray's just a little bit further down in the maturation process. That's not like breaking news here. He's in year 6, but he's playing really well right now. He's got a touchdown pass in every one of these games. He's getting it going in his legs. He just seems to be a little bit more polished, and that's not like it's Caleb's first year, and I think that's Kyler's somebody I think that Caleb Williams can look to as far as maybe the blueprint to kind of emulate his own career after.
Thanks for stopping by again, man.
Appreciate it, man.
Always good having you on the show.
Appreciate it, brother.
And
guys, enjoy the Valley.
Yep, we always love coming here.
We're not leaving.
All right, guys, take care.
All right.
All right, there is Bo Brack from PHNX, and we're going to be invading their studios tomorrow to do our Monday show. Looking forward to that. All right, guys, we got about 10 minutes left in the show. We're going to bring Greg back in here. We're going to talk predictions. I do think it's worth going back over, though, and I want to ask you, Woot, the defensive lineman, just the trickle-down effect of not having Montez Sweat today, especially considering it seems a little surprising. Like, even if he was on a pitch count, what's the difference between at least having him in uniform, ready to go for certain situations, versus just the Cardinals knowing he's out?
I think it's huge because he's one of the guys that you circle on when your opposing teams are. He's a guy that you got to watch out for. And I look at the game last week. I thought he did a great job of containing a mobile quarterback in Jaden Daniels. You know, in the first quarter, he got outside him one time, but after that, really kept him in the pocket, especially on those zone reads, chasing him down the one time. And Jaden Daniels is one of the fastest quarterbacks in the league. I think probably him and Justin Fields, a toss-up. But to be able to run him down in those situations, just what he brings – as a leader on this defense, I think it's a huge loss to have him out in this game, especially after what happened last week, and they need a win this week.
Well, it certainly isn't good, but I also try to look at it from a glass half full perspective, and this is a great opportunity for, Austin Booker, right? This is a great opportunity for a guy like Daniel Hardy, who I was beating the drum for in training camp and preseason, like, let this guy make the roster. He ends up blocking a punt week 1 to win the game. Every player on the defensive line, with the exception of Daniel Hardy, has a sack. So they've been getting production. Obviously, Montez Sweat has a lot to do with that because it's a trickle down of all those guys being able to play alongside him. But I think each guy has been doing their job. So now today, it's your opportunity to step up with him being out.
Daniel Hardy's an interesting name because that is a talented player, but he's also a very emotional player and does things on the field that you ideally would not want. So it'll be interesting to see if he can kind of contain himself a little bit and not get any penalties that will cost the Bears. And I also look at, if you want to be glass half full, Montez Sweat needs to get healthy. If you can get through this game and get enough production and win it, you have the Patriots next week. He can sit that one out too.
Division games coming up.
So he can get these 2 weeks, and maybe, I don't know how severe the injury is, but maybe you can get back the player that you had last year when you acquired him from Washington.
All right. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say this game comes down to, I think, Jervon Dexter and Andrew Billings. The interior pressure. I think that's going to be key because last week there were some breakdowns in the A and B gap just because of rush lanes and things like that. So if Billings and Dexter and company can keep those rush lanes, get penetration, I think they could be successful today.
So it's time for our game predictions presented by Ray Auto Group. We always thank Ray for this segment, and we bring you the predictions every single week. I know Ray is picking the Bears once again, as have I. Every single game, I have picked the Bears, which is why my record is 4-3. I want to do this a little bit differently as we can see our predictions. I have the Bears winning 19-17. Let's go through our predictions, but also I want to hear how confident you are in your own prediction this week, because I would say the things that have happened since I made this prediction on Thursday at Hallis Hall, between the injury report on Friday, now knowing who's inactive, the Tyrique Stevenson stuff this morning, I could see this game going a lot of different ways. So I am probably only like 50% confident in my prediction. I don't feel great about it.
Yeah, I would agree. I had the Bears winning 24-21, but after everything has been breaking, it is a little nerve-wracking, honestly. Like, how are they going to bounce back? Because we've seen Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde from the Bears, right? Sometimes we see them come out, play well, other times not as much. So I'm a little bit nervous about this game, just of how well Kyler Murray's been playing in this offense, and he's efficient. The tight end with McBride and James Conner, especially Montez Sweat being out. So hopefully they can rally the troops, get the offense going fast, get some stops early on, get a big lead, and that would be really nice today.
Full transparency, I made my pick on the runway in Tulsa on my way here because we had to get it in under the horn, and I was going back and forth all week. What
were you doing in Tulsa again?
I connecting on my third way to get here because I wanted to get here as frugally as possible because I want you guys to be able to live life to the fullest. So if I had known that this was the lineup, I would have picked the Cardinals. But so I'm about 13% confident.
So do you want to go back on it? You can.
I'm not going
back on it.
No take backs.
What's done is done. Can't do it. So,
and you don't get to make a bunch of excuses now. You picked them, stand in it.
Oh,
you don't get to do whatever you just did, and I will.
I
make
was
all
in Tulsa. That's why I got this game wrong. What the heck are you even
Yeah,
talking about?
That's a great. Actually, that's one of the best points Greg's ever made.
Thank you.
You can do all your whatever arguing with yourself and everybody else. I'm just giving you the story. And anyway,
By the way,
I'm
it's
sorry,
really
I shouldn't-
unfortunate we didn't do a Twitter Spaces from the Uber from the golf course
I
yesterday.
told somebody earlier that if we had gone live,
Yeah.
or if that was being recorded, honestly, it was probably the funniest 30 minutes ever.
Well, I'll tell you what, nothing's taken a bigger dive on this trip more than my Uber ratings.
That guy loved us. He
I don't
said
I don't know.
He said it was the funniest drive he's ever been on.
He
He
had
loved
to
it.
say
That guy earned the biggest tip I've ever given an Uber driver just because I was so embarrassed.
He had to deal with Braggs for about 35 minutes. There's a little bit of traffic on the way, and all he was
All right.
talking about was
All
the golf
right.
game and this and that. It sounded like excuses.
It
Like
was-
you were calling
I'm not
Carman
making
out.
any excuses.
Was
I'm
he
not
not
making any
making
excuses.
There was a lot
No.
of excuses.
Okay.
It's not excuses.
And
Now,
it's stupid because
shut up.
you shot a 93. It was pretty good.
It's the worst 30 minutes of my trip, hands down, no question. Go ahead.
My turn for game predictions. You three, shut up. So
HR.
I will say this. We all picked the Bears to win because at the end of the day, I mean, we cover this team all in our different ways, but we're also Bears fans. And that's why we try to do these kind of events and we do the tailgates and stuff because all of us, we identify with the Bears fans. And so when you're looking into a week, especially when your team is good enough to win, you're trying to see what you hope will be the feel-good story. And the feel-good story is that they bounce back from all this adversity after what they went through last Sunday. Now you have a bunch of injuries. There's a lot of drama. And you hope a guy like Caleb Williams can rise to this occasion. He was named a captain on this team. Very rarely do rookies get named captain. It's a big moment, and it's a lot on his shoulders for Caleb Williams, but this is an opportunity for him to really put his footprints and say, this is my team, and I don't care what's going on. I'm going to find a way to win this game because on paper, just like Washington, just like the Colts, they should win these games. On paper, they should beat the Cardinals. They're a better team. Yes, they have a lot of injuries, but when you look at what the defense does week to week, I have no doubt they'll be able to hold them relatively in check. Yep. And then it's just up to the offense. And they're playing a defense in the Cardinals defense that's not good. So when I just look at that simplistically, the Bears should win this game. But there's always a lot more layers to why a team wins or loses. And sometimes it also comes down to critical coaching decisions in those pivotal moments of the game.
Comes down to execution.
Yep.
I think the offensive defensive lines need to set the tone and the identity. They need to find out the identity of this offense because it's been a mixed bag. Right? Are you going to run the football? Are you going to get things going? Are you going to get Caleb going off of that? That's what they have to do offensively. On the other side, I was going to ask about Jaquan Brisker. Like, is there any concern about that, him being out, especially after the bye week, last week? It's kind of concerning, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's now I did see him in the locker room this week, and he was, it's not like he's missing because there's been bad concussions in the past that I've covered where the player's not there. I remember like when Marion Host had that awful hit from Rafi Torres and was just like basically away from the team for months, so it doesn't seem like it's that bad, but yeah, we're talking about a guy with multiple concussions now, and it's been 3 weeks, plus the bye week was in there, so it is a concern.
Have they talked anything about that? About like, just.
No, they just said like how he's progressing, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, so I mean, it must be something maybe a little serious. Maybe did they see something on a scan? I really don't know.
Or he's just not, the symptoms are lingering, which is always possible too. Tua just missed a lot of time with his concussion. Now he's back. So we'll see if he can return next week. But yeah, that is unfortunate right now. And quite frankly, not only in the near future just to get him back, but also long term. Yeah. He plays a position where that probably won't be his last concussion.
Exactly.
Carm's shaking his head, but he's making bets on the game right now.
I am making some bets over here.
HR.
So let's go. Don't look at my phone ever again. I'm betting a lot of overs today.
I wanted to know, what are you betting?
I like DJ Moore to go over 58.5 yards. I like Roma Dunze to go over 38.5 yards. I like the
Swift rushing yards.
Swift rushing. Yes, they're Swift rushing yards. I'm gonna pull that up for you, Woot.
It'll be 70, right, Brian?
So you can get him. I mean, they're oh, that's rushing and receiving. Okay, that makes more sense. Hold on, I got it for you. If you want to take him to get 90 plus yards, you can get him for plus 185 on 90, 2-1 basically.
Okay.
Why don't you tweet those out? I'm going to go hang out with the fans here.
Great
the
idea.
show.
Yeah.
It's been awesome here at Salt. We're going to come back over there, hang out with the great fans that are here.
Let's go,
Head
Bears.
over to the stadium.
Let's go, Bears. Let's go, Bears. Let's go, Bears.
And we will be
Let's go, Bears.
We will be here right after the game
Let's go,
for our
Bears.
post game in Arizona.
Oh, I love it.
Arizona. He's got the
Probably
sign back there.
celebrating the dub.
We taking over.
Don't ever sing again.
Wow, that was terrible. We banned
Get
it
your
together.
voice, Carm.
That was the worst way to ever end a pregame show. All right, we'll say goodbye. We'll talk to you. Remember, right after the game, be back here on CHGO of the CHGO Bears postgame show. Talk to you then.
Let's go.
We all silly like the mayor.